If you've ever wanted to understand how to work with chakras for yourself that goes beyond the surface of pop culture references, this session's for you. I'm going to lead you through a opening guided meditation, and then I'll share some grounding tools and further resources that I've enjoyed. And I'll even show you how to use some art to embody these energies and work with them further. At the end of the video, I'm going to provide a sequence for those who have trouble with grounding, embodiment, or disassociation. If you're the kind of person that feels overwhelmed or overstimulated by a guided meditation like this, the one at the end of the video might be more your speed. Welcome to Chiron Art Therapy. I'm Maggi Colwell, an art therapist and Jungian. Here we explore archetypal images, personal symbolism in art and dreams, and what your psyche is trying to tell you. If you're ready to dive into your inner world, you're in the right place. Subscribe, and let's begin. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to lead everybody in a guided meditation for a chakra opening. I'm going to give you a bunch of different resources of things if you want to read up more, if you want to try things in a different way, and some art activities that I think are useful to go along with the concept of chakras as well. I think where I want to start with all of this is chakras are part of the Hindu energy system. They relate it to Kundalini yoga. So it's one of their branches of yoga and it's one of their spiritual sciences. I am using it in a very Western kind of a sense. So I'm going to own up to that first of all. But one of the questions I get a lot, I think this kind of connects in with trying to think about things from an archetypal standpoint, is we can't find chakras in the body. There's not a nerve system or a physical organ system that relates to this 7 chakra system in the body. I would say, yes, that is true, because we're talking about psychic systems. We're not talking about physical systems. What does that mean? That means that our mental energy, that the energy of what it is to be human and be alive and have electromagnetic fields relate to psychic processes. This is the original place for where the word psychology comes from. It's from psyche, which is Greek myth, right? So it's all relating back to having a embodied experience in the earth as a living being. So everything we talk about in psychology relates to psychic processes. Does that make sense from that definition? I think this is a really useful way to look at things. It's a way to explore what you're feeling and connecting with yourself. Let me pull up an image so that you can look at what this looks like. Chakras in the body. The root chakra, the way to describe that is that it's at basically where the anus is. It's the bottom that you sit on and where waste comes out. It's the very, very bottom of your body. It relates to grounding, being embodied, as well, kind of rooted sexual energy. The system that I was taught in layered a couple of other pieces on here that aren't in the traditional Hindu system. It was one of those pieces was that these are all discs or apertures or a lotus that's opening. There's different ways to visualize them. The bottom center in the system I was taught was one that's on the bottom of your feet that is black and is the place where we connect with the ancestors. I've found that a useful way to look at things as my connection to the earth, as well as to my own root system, if that makes sense, in my family. You can use that or not. That's up to you. The next one up from the root, and the root chakra is red, is the sacral chakra. That is basically where our womb or our ovaries are. For men, They compare that to where the gonads are. Since was not born with a male body, I can't feel around and feel what makes sense for me with that. But I also wonder with that, is it also related to that pelvic basin for men as well? That would be a sensing thing that you play around with. What makes sense for me as I explore where my body feels seated in these different spaces? I think it's also one of those things, the more you visualize it, the more you can connect with it, the more you're creating a psychic pattern in your body. And this is a way to shift what your total pattern of who you is and what that looks like into a place of more wholeness, the more you visualize what wholeness feels like for you. The sacral chakra is related to creativity, to fertility, for that kind of outpouring of flow, and the color is orange. It can also be about abundance or new experiences. The next one up is the solar plexus. That is that space right below where your rib cage meets. So that kind of like fleshy spot that if somebody hit you in it, it's going to knock the wind out of you, that space. That is the seat of yourself. It is the center of your personal solar system. So you think about that as being center for your personal will, of what gives you energy, and of who you are, your sense of self. It can relate to feeling confident, feeling like you have that, in therapy speak, internal locus of control, and that you're not affected by the judgment of others, that there's an integrity within that and balance within that sense of yourself. That one is yellow, same way we normally think about the sun. Next layer up is the heart chakra. It's the middle of the chest. Think about where your heart is. It doesn't have to be skew center. Think about that as being like the whole breastplate. It's green. And that's a place of compassion, both for yourself and for others. It can be about connection and relationship. Think about something feeling heartfelt. It can also be related to love, and I mean that in a friendship or a spiritual way, not necessarily an eros way. That would be more of a root chakra kind of a thing. Just that pervasive compassion, that kind of outpouring and empathy. Next one up is the throat chakra. It's seen as where the voice box is, and that relates to communication, truth, mindfulness, and being able to speak. I find a lot of times that when people have literally or figuratively lost their voice, they wind up with throat issues. It's constricted, they get sick a lot, their voice isn't clear. Some people who have lost their voice have a very high-pitched or very soft voice, and even just projecting force through their voice box is difficult. And often when I wind up with a sore throat, I start to ask myself, where have I censored myself? Where did I cut off my own voice? And usually I can find a relationship to that. So that's always an interesting question for yourself. That color is a sky blue. Next one up is the third eye chakra. Where that is the center of your forehead. If you were to draw an equal lateral triangle between your eyes and then meet it in your forehead like that, that's where your third eye would be. That is an indigo color. It's considered the psychic centers. Thinking about psychic sight. Interesting meditation I was taught in my earlier training, and I'm talking about ritual and magical training, I'm not talking about therapeutic training, was you've drawn that, visualize that equal lateral triangle. If you drew inner lines between those points to a central point and then went backwards, that point that goes backwards into your head would line up with your pineal gland. And that's the spot that's also associated with psychic sight. It's about intuition, inner knowing, being able to see the big picture and being able to connect things together. It's inner and connective intuitive sight. The next one up is where the fontanelle is in the top of the head, that soft spot when we're babies, the crown of the head. That is the connection to the above. It can be thinking about the words that I'm using here. Violet, crown of the head. The color purple is often associated with royalty. It's starting to connect you to something that is sovereign and something that's transcendent. The system I was taught in, there's another one on top of this that is not part of the physical body. You think about putting one fist over your head and the next one would be up here. And that one is seen as white, and it's called the transcendent chakra. And it's the idea that it's in your auric body, but still a part of you. You know, you think about how far does the heat fall off of me in every direction. Our head has a lot of heat that it radiates. So it's still part of my energy field, but not necessarily a part of my physical boundary that connects me to everything else, or connects me to the great above, or the connection to the universe. So that would be the transpersonal chakra. I am going to go through a visualization that everybody can go through with me. The more you do this, the better it gets. The more you layer and repeat symbolism so that you don't have to say, what does this one relate to, where it lives inside of you, the more it's going to open up and be a living thing that you can interact with inside of yourself in a symbolic way. So layers of symbols start to relate to archetypal truth, where if we're talking about the throat chakra and the blue and these yantras that are on the screen, the different designs for each one of them also relate to the energy that they're related to. And then you say, okay, what is my sensing of what does my throat feel like? What's my relationship with my voice, with my throat? What's my relationship with my thyroid? You can start to get more layering, and that becomes a wisdom. When you start to layer different correspondences, you get to know more about what that archetypal pattern is about. Other secondary chakras that are worth knowing about that are tertiary to this, I'll just mention briefly: the soles of the feet, the palms of the hands, the backs of the ears, right behind your ear, that kind of, I don't know what that hard knob is behind your ears is called. The nape of the neck, where it meets your skull, is another one. So there will be symbolism in mythology and native wisdom that relates to different things. You'll see it in artwork. That's why a lot of times artwork of Christ shows him crucified through the palm of his hand, which we know isn't historically accurate, that it would have been through the arm bone because your hand can't hold body weight, but it's relating to that chakra, to that energy center at the hands. And you think of how important our hands and how sensitive they are. It starts to give you an idea of the gestalt of what that's talking about. Do we want to pause for questions, or should I just go through the visualization first? Visualization? First thing I try to get people to pay attention to is put your feet on the floor if you can. Think about sitting in a way that stacks your spine so that your spine is straight and it's creating this tension of a column going upwards and downwards. Pay attention to your breath. I'm not going to make you hold your breath, but I want it to be intentional. As you're breathing, this acts as a kind of a way for your consciousness to flow and relating to the flow of your blood in each of these spots. Take a couple breaths. See the center of yourself as a column. There's so much spinal fluid, nerve data. It really is our central column of our existence. Now we're going to start with the root chakra down at the basin of your pelvic bone, your sits bones. And you see this as a red orb of light. You might imagine it like the opening of a camera aperture as you're breathing, paying attention to it, or a blooming of a lotus that's opening up. And see that as flowing red, moving energy until that orb is full. Then as you breathe, you imagine a flow of energy moving upward as if it's a fountain overflowing the first center and moving upward toward the second, where your womb or your belly, somewhere around your belly button, your ovaries. Imagine the next center as orange, glowing, opening, filling full of your breath. Now see that red center and then the orange center, and then your breath continues to move upward as if it's a fountain, flowing upward, moving to the place of the solar plexus, starting to glow as yellow, brilliant yellow, gold, filling up that center, allowing it to open and bloom. So from the red center, moving upward to the orange center, moving up to the yellow center. Your breath continues to flow upward, floating, moving up into your chest. And you find the green center, your heart chakra, allowing that to open like an aperture or a blooming lotus, glowing, filling up your chest, filling up your heart, feeding you, filling your heart full of compassion. So from the red center, you move to the orange, to the yellow, up into the green, into your chest. And then your breath continues to flow upward into your throat, seeing a blue center there, glowing, adding energy of your breath, opening, place of your voice, communication, connection. Now allowing your breath continuing to flow and move from the root to the orange center, to the solar plexus, to the heart, to the throat. And on another breath, moving upward to your third eye, to an indigo. See it as filling up your forehead, maybe making note of your pineal gland, of intuition, of inner sight, connection with your inner figures and how that relates to the world around you. Allowing that center to open and fill. Again, on your breath, feeling that flowing upward, moving from the root to the sacral, to the solar, to the heart, the throat, the third eye, and then to the top of your head, the crown chakra, a brilliant violet, allowing your breath to fill this orb, to let it open and bloom, making note of the rainbow column in your body, connecting you, enlivening you, awakening you, helping you remember your full pattern, connecting with all of yourself. You can see the top of your head as if that was a fountain, with the energy moving all the way up, going past the top of your head, seeing a brilliant white light above your head, your own personal connection to divinity, guiding light looking over you, your connection to the eternal, to the celestials. The Greeks called this the nous, the spirit. One way to ground this energy is to let that top of the fountain, visualize it moving all the way down around you as if you are an egg, allowing it to go all the way underneath the ground and connect back up to your feet as a full circuit. A way to journal with this would be to notice how things feel now that you've been visualizing each part of your body at this point. Imagine into what that feeling feels like, connecting to, you could even have a dialogue with each of the centers. If it's too much, the way to visualize yourself fully in your body and grounded again would be to walk that ladder back down to the ground. The way I encourage clients doing things like this, the ones that are very sensitive, have trouble with grounding, have trouble with being in their bodies, or are frequently disassociated, would be to start with the crown and move down to the root. So rather than opening up energy, it would be about connecting your spirit all the way into the body and giving it an anchor to connect to the body, to ground, to physicality, so that it's held in physical form. I'm going to give everybody a couple minutes to breathe so that you can get to a place where you want to come back into physical waking reality, and we'll talk about a couple other things that you can do with this. Another way to ground yourself, you can put your palms on a table or on the tops of your knees. Breathe into that. Another one is to really plant your feet on the ground, wiggle your toes a little bit, and think about using your hands and feet like suction cups, and they're like pressing into something solid and flat. All right, if I could get everybody to take a big breath in, maybe stretch a little bit. This would be a great exercise to do in the morning if you're just trying to wake yourself up and connect with yourself. I am going to record this in the other direction and put it as part of the YouTube video, going from the top of the head going down, as a grounding exercise as well. I'm not going to make everybody sit through that. A couple things that I want to share with everybody. My favorite book on chakras is called Wheels of Life by Anadia Judith. I'll put an Amazon link in here into the chat. It's huge. It's 500 pages long, but it's really good. If you're interested in this, if this sparks something for you, that would be the resource that I would go to. If you're looking for something that's less intensive, a little chakra quiz by a fellow art therapist, Leah Guzman, has a neat little quiz on her website that's fun. It gives you some ways of questions for journaling and where am I out of balance and how do I want to feed different aspects of myself to feel like I'm more in balance. That's fun. The other thing that I wanted to share with you, let's see if I can look up his name, because I'm not sure where the book is as per usual. This is an older book. Some of the language is outdated based on current language that we're using at this point, but this particular analyst uses native practices in his practice. It's called the Personal Totem Pole, Animal Imagery and Chakras and Psychotherapy. It's a really good book. Like I said, the language is a little outdated. But it gives you a way to visualize meeting an animal in each one of the chakras. And then you create a internal council that you can interact with through active imagination in that practice, which I think is super fun. If you would rather have something that's more art grounded, you could do something similar like this, where you do one chakra a day and then make a soul collage card for each one of those animals. You create the color related to the chakra and then add the animal that you saw. And then you create a deck of chakra cards. That's given in soulcollage.com if you're interested in something like that. I think that's fun. They can also change. I like doing other things where I have a collage of the council together. Once you've gone through the visualizations for each one, then making a big collage of, now that I've looked at all these in pieces, what are they all coming together? What does the environment look like as an ecosystem working together? What is the sense of wholeness, and how can I align myself to come into more of a connection with a sense of looking at the big picture? That would be another way to go about that. I'm going to record that whole piece from the top down as well. Everybody will have access to that hopefully next week. Yeah, thank you. I would say most of my clients fall into that category of needing anchoring, grounding, embodiment, rather than being able to open up their energy. I'll add a personal experience in there. If I've had a really difficult session where I feel I've really had to concentrate to try to understand what's going on, or if I've been teaching for a large group of people and trying to keep everybody connected on the same wavelength and hoping that I'm understandable and that I'm using the right kind of analogies and pacing is correct, I'll often go home and feel I have a headache that's like right here. I used to just be mad about it and, oh, why am I so burnt out? I can't extrovert. But when I decided to surrender and accept it, I learned that the solution for that particular problem for me was to do things that were very grounding and sensory, low chakra type of activities where I'm have some soup, take a bath, do sensory rest so that I could get back down into my body and reduce the stimulation. That would take the pressure off of my kind of overused intuitive function that for me, I was feeling like right here, if that makes sense. What you need to balance each chakra is going to be different. That's why Anadia Judas' books are 500 pages long. People who don't have a strong sense of their own will or their own self, like the solar plexus chakra, then that would be starting to relate to how do you speak up for yourself? How do you feel safe so that you can do that? Those kind of pieces. It's going to vary for each chakra. One of the people that go to my monthly rituals, she's a very grounded person. Just for who she is, she's embodied. Her energy is very calm and stable. She's just grounded. But in order for her to feel like she's connected to something intuitive or spiritual, she has to have a lot of energy in it to pull that all the way up. It's very individual. I think that's one of the problems when you learn systems is it doesn't connect you with your specific needs if you're just like memorizing this is this. For people who don't get that kind of fast, snappy, and then I thought this, whoa. For other people, it takes a while. It's more of, and then I had a dream 3 days later that so connects with what I was thinking about. Or you have a conversation with another person that just connects, or it's a synchronicity out in the world that just something seems to be speaking to what you were wondering about. It's about archetypal consciousness, about layering symbolism so that it lives inside of you and so that your consciousness connects with energy patterns. It's not about labels and codifying things, if that makes sense. The popular usage of the word, both symbol is very reductive. This means this. An archetype is what's your type? That's not how it works. What we're exploring here is more of how do you relate to patterns of energy. And we could talk about patterns of energy with physics and biology and chemistry. There are certain patterns that have a characteristic and relationship, and that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about trying to reduce everything into a label, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. That's one of the main reasons why I wanted to do these talks, is because what's flying around on the internet is not related to what some of these words actually mean. It's not alive unless it's individually specific. Yeah. I never want to say this means this. And that's why I keep on saying I find this useful. It's not codified truth. Our womb is the center of creativity, of generating new life, of having space for sexual intimacy. That's the home of sexuality, absolutely, from a feminine embodied perspective. Now, to add another layer to that, which has been a really interesting experience for me, is I had a hysterectomy in February. Best thing that's ever happened to me because I had endometriosis. I was sick for decades. It's finally, I have a diagnosis, I have treatment, and I'm not in pain. I had this huge burst of creative energy that has shifted, that's given me energy for things like this that I can put out into the world because it's no longer being eaten and absorbed by this physical organ that was unable to produce physical creativity. Literally, my body was eating itself. It was a mess. But letting go of that physical ailment has, oh, it has unleashed energy that I have hoped for since I was 12. Body and spirit, psyche and soma are so interconnected. It's going to be different for everybody. So is this going to be like feeling like I have something missing? For me, it has been, oh, thank goodness. I have more of me now. And even I've done visualizations and seen how this has shifted for me, like in my embodied experience of who I am, of who is this new me? How do I create a new sense of wholeness as I have adjusted to it?
You've reached the part of my video where I'm going to do the same chakra meditation, but I'm going to adjust it a little bit for people who maybe you think too much, maybe you disassociate, maybe just being in your body and feeling a sense of groundedness is hard because you're racing from one thing to the next. And that can be an internal or an external thing. But what we're going to do now is the same kind of thing, but gearing it towards having a grounded, embodied experience rather than a lifting, energy raising experience. So I wanted to, first of all, set this up so that you could see my whole body and so that I look embodied while we do this. So first thing I want you to do is take a couple of deep breaths, settle into your chair, put both of your feet on the floor, and notice the weight of the chair pressing against your seat, the backs of your legs, as well as the floor meeting the soles of your feet. Keep breathing. And throughout this whole process, the most important thing is to keep breathing. One of the things we do when we come across something new or start to get nervous is we hold our breath, and that'll shoot you right back up into your head. And we want to pull that down. So the best way to do that is to breathe slowly and deeply, trying to expand that lower belly to get air all the way into the bottom of your torso. One of the things I like about this chair is it's got a lot of texture to it. So if you have something that you can put your hands with the palms of your hands flat on something and notice the texture of something, whether it's a smooth desk or the texture of the arms of your chair, that would be the next thing to really sink into and root into your seat. Keep breathing. Now for this one, we're going to start at the top of the head. The crown chakra is violet, and sometimes it's shown as white. So you can see that as there being a light above your head. And imagining at the top, the crown of your head, where the fontanelle is, right here, there being a purple, violet orb. It might open up like the aperture of the camera, or think about a lotus blooming, but you're allowing that energy to open up. And just breathe into that visualization, imagining that violet. Just radiating down over the top of your skull. For your next one, You're going to think about the middle of your forehead, maybe further into your head where your pineal gland is, and see this moving downward stream of light going down your central column into that next one, which is indigo light for your third eye chakra. And breathe that light, cooling, filling up, gently streaming downward until it fills up completely with indigo light. So you're going from violet light at the top of your head down to the indigo until this overflows to pouring down, going down your central column to your throat chakra. There's a bright sky blue. See this orb opening, that lotus blooming, the energy streaming down naturally. Maybe you want to move your shoulders a little bit here so you're not tight. You're not blocking this downward flow. And see that orb fully filling with blue light until this overflows too. As you breathe, it naturally overflows, flowing down your central column with your breath all the way to your chest. This next one, the heart chakra, the center of compassion, self-compassion, is green, vibrant living. Fill that orb, allowing it to open and fill. Your breath should feel gentle. Okay to move a little bit if you need to. You want to feel pliable as you do this. Anytime that you get stuck into a static position and lock your joints, you're also locking what in yoga they call bandhas, which are like contraction that can act almost locks in a canal. So energetically, we want to keep things fluid. Filling up your chest with that green light, that orb too overflows and pours down into the base of where your ribs meet, solar plexus, the center of your body, the center of your solar system that is you. And on your breath, allow that flowing downward energy to fill up yellow, bright, golden, filling up the seat of yourself, your sense of self, your center. Until this too overflows. So on your next breath, allow that central column to continue to flow downward, moving down into below your belly button, the womb area, bottom of your belly, sacral, sacrum, letting that orb fill with orange energy, seat of your creativity, allowing it to open and fill on your breath. If it helps you to continue to make note of each one of the orbs as you're moving downwards to continue that flow and that continuity of moving down into your body, that's fine. So allow the sacral chakra to overflow and pour downward naturally, pooling down into the base of your sits bones, where your anus is, where you meet your chair. And see the root chakra start to open up as you fill it with breath. Red, deep. Make sure you're not clenching anything, whether it's your glutes or any of your pelvic muscles. You want this, again, to be fluid and gentle. You have more strength when you're able to move and not locked up. If you want to continue this further, you can imagine a black chakra underneath the soles of your feet, connecting you to the earth, connecting you to your ancestors, rooting you further. Visualize that energy moving down through the floor and then back up again to connect to the top as a full circuit. It moves up like water vapor, connecting to the top of your head that you might see like a fountain. The intake returning. As you continue to explore this, you can see how each one of the chakras feels. Breathing into each one of them, noticing other parts of your body. A common art therapy tool that you could use after this is a body check-in, where you can use a outline of a body or a gingerbread person and visually represent what those different parts of your body feels like. What does tightness feel like? What does tingling or pain or coldness feel like? What does pressure feel like? If you were doing this as a way to get yourself grounded and embodied at the end of the day, you might want to see the visualization slowly dimming like you have it on a light dimmer, absorbing and allowing yourself to slowly wind down as you connect to the earth. I hope you've enjoyed this meditation. Please come back to it anytime you like. Make sure you subscribe. And if you would like to attend some of these live, join my newsletter and you'll get a invitation to my weekly Tuesday tune-ins where we have conversation and can interact with some of these exercises. Thank you.